What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Point Forward. Today, we have a very, very special guest. If you're a listener throughout seasons 1 through 3, you know who one of our favorite basketball players is. Penny Hardaway will be joining us today. Excited for you all to listen. What's up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Point Forward. Myself, Andre Iguodala, my main man, Evan Turner. And we came up with this term, Point Forward. I guess they tried to say it was one guy in Chicago, but true point forward, it started here. And when I was in the second grade, I'll never forget, I was one of the tallest kids, but I played point guard. And I got these Nikes that were black and blue. And it was Penny Hardaway wore them his rookie year. And they called me Penny Hardaway way back in 93, 94. And I'll never forget that. And that's when I became a true fan of his game. But this is like an honor to us. We always talk about our childhood heroes. And this one, every time I see him, the energy is I'm always like this on him. And he be like, bro, relax. But it's just I can't help it. This is what made my childhood.
And you look at him like Penny. I fell in love with him when he was Butch McRae hooping at St. Joe's. And I went to high school at St. Joe's. So when I was a kid, I'm like, no, I'm Butch McRae. Baseline, dunk. You know what I mean? So having you on the show today as a fan growing up, but a true point forward is amazing. We were trying to get you for Dre's birthday surprise. So.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, that was your birthday surprise. It was Penny. Yeah, but he was in the middle of the season. You had stuff to do. I think you were working. So.
Down 4 years old, getting excited.
No, I definitely appreciate both of you guys, man. I'm a huge fan of both. Obviously, you guys were big guards. I know Dre said the point forward, but, man, played the game. Both of you guys played the game at a high level, man. I'm a huge fan of both as well.
No, I appreciate that. And to, kind of dive in to you and, how your game developed and your career.
Yeah.
What's the definition of a point forward to you? And how was it being a tall point guard, like one of the first ones? I shouldn't say the first one, Magic was there, but just in terms of the way you moved, the way you shot the ball, you moved like a 6'2", 6'3" guy, but you were 6'8". And so kind of how did that evolve and your definition of point forward?
Yeah, I would think that, point guard, point forward, anyone that it's more than just handling the ball and bringing the ball up the court, because I see a lot of guys bringing the ball up the court. But to understand the game, to get people involved, make people better, understand the flow of the game, and really control that game, I think to me is a point guard, point forward, someone that can really make everyone else better, not just bring the ball up the court to initiate offense.
So how did you get into being able to be a point forward? Because back in the day, we struggled with when we were big men. We were 6'5", yeah, in the center. So I'm a 6'5", 160-pound senior guarding a 6-foot offensive lineman just for the hell of it. But I'm trying to make it to the NBA. At the early days or whatnot, who really put the ball in your hands, and what was the upbringing of just hooping? Because it's so much just bringing the ball up, a speed, skill, and IQ. What was that like, and how were you able to hone your skills consistently?
Yeah, for me, it was being in the park all day and all night in the summer after school, even before I started playing AAU or junior high ball or high school ball. It was just countless hours in the park, just basically dreaming and playing ball against my friends. And it was very, very competitive and highly competitive. And as I got older, the head coach that I had for my high school team when I started varsity in 9th grade, he allowed me to be the point guard. He didn't try to, he saw that my skills were good and that I could play make from that position. He did not put me at the center. I never had to play the center one time on either one of my teams. I played the point guard from the very beginning because I would find people. I was very unselfish, and my game got stronger because I started to, I was able to find people. So that was kudos to my coaches growing up that they didn't put me at the center spot at all.
Now, and talk about, what that deal for you and how you built your entire package with your skill set, because now that you're coaching, decade at Memphis, and how it feels like we fell off with how we've teaching our kids how to play. Because it felt like every level had a responsibility. 8th grade, middle school was a responsibility. High school, it was a responsibility. In college, there was a responsibility. Like at each level, you knew like, okay, I'm going to middle school now. This coach is going to be on me. Now I'm going to high school, like to play varsity really meant something. And then it's like college is like playing D1 was like a big thing. And it's like when you got to the league, you had your fundamentals and you had your skill set in place. Yeah. And now you're playing with grown men. Now I'm finding when guys get to the league, I got to teach a guy how to go left. Or I got to teach a guy when he drives, can you see the corner? Can you make the pass when you see the help coming? Like the subtle things. And so, what are you teaching the kids? And then, what were you taught in terms of building your skill set growing up?
Yeah, well, I'll start with me. I had old school coaches that taught fundamentals, footwork, passing, ball handling, being able to find the open man and not dribble the air out of it, because we had old school coaches. It was almost like pass and cut, not a lot of ball handling. So if you did your ball handling, you did that in the park by yourself. But in the game, it was you saw somebody open, get off the ball, and then, space out on the other side. So I was really blessed with having that at an early age, because old school coaches were not about you just pounding and pounding and pounding the basketball. And what I teach my kids and the young men here are 0.5 mentality, man. Either you got shot, pass, or drive. Let's not pound it. Let's not dribble it. Let's make the defense shift. Let's make the defense move from, strong and weak back to strong. And, really just shift the defense. It makes it harder on them and easier on us. I know that's hard in today's age because in all the fundamental workouts and development that they're being taught, it's a lot of dribbling. It's a lot of ball handling, a lot of dribbling for you, not for teammates, but actually to get your game off. And I understand some of that, but at the end of the day, the game was different back then because we took more pride in doing all the fundamentals. And today, it just doesn't seem like everybody's teaching the fundamentals.
They always say that you hear that theory where it's hard for great people to teach other kids be great. But you've been in coaching for a decade. You've been doing a lot of great things. You won conference championships since you've been there. You have some top 25 teams in the country. How you been able to shed your own identity, but be able to dive full-heartedly into a coach and being known as a coach and not just a player? I mean, I see you as Penny Hardaway, who I know, but I'm like, no, this year 10, he really coaching. And like, you're looking on TV, like, no, he's not playing about shit neither. He's dead ass serious. So how are you able to cross over and keep that level, but also do so much for your alma mater?
Yeah, just for me, my beliefs in basketball is simple. Defensively, you're going to lead with defense. You're going to win championships with defense. Offensively, we share the basketball. So I tell my young men, we're going to play defense, which gives you affords you the ability to play offense. I don't really say much. We play out of concepts offensively. We're going to move the ball, but defensively, you're going to have to be held accountable every possession on making multiple efforts. And I think that's where my successes come from. And that's how I played as a basketball player. It was both ends. It wasn't just one end. And with giving that freedom offensively, I think I've been able to reach these young men and allowing them to understand, okay, offensively, we can do what we need to do. We're fast breaking. We're trying to score within the first 6-7 seconds of the shot clock, play the fastest game. But on the defensive end, you got to guard your yard and get multiple efforts. And that's been very successful for me.
And going into coaching, throughout your career, who have been some of your, favorite coaches, or what are things you've taken from NBA, whether it was in New York or Phoenix or Orlando, of course, the Olympics, 96, Dream Team 2, college, who have been some of the coaches that have had special traits about them that you've kind of picked up and put into your repertoire?
Yeah, I'd have to say a ton of them. Obviously, I played on a few teams. So, just starting with my first coach, Brian Hill, allowing me to play in the post when I first came into the NBA. I wasn't just out on the perimeter. He put me in the post. So shout out to B. Hill for doing that and just teach me, about using my size against guys down in the post. I didn't do that as much in college. I did it a lot with him, a UCLA cut to the post or a brush screen to the post and then posting up smaller guards. After that, I can say, I had Danny Ainge, who was a very gifted offensive guy. I had Mike D'Antoni in Phoenix, who was brilliant offensively about going from strong and weak back to strong and making this side be the fake side and then getting it to the other side and being the strong side. He just played so many beautiful mind games offensively to try to get things flowing in Orlando. obviously playing for Coach Lenny Wilkins in New York and in the Olympics. Was a winningest coach at one time. I don't know if he still is, but just his patience and his understanding and his toughness that goes along, with the game. Chuck Daly, may he rest in peace. From the Bad Boys, he was all about, hey, man, take care of do you. You got to go out there and worry about what you're doing, and then everybody else will follow. It was just holding me accountable every possession. And, I don't want to leave anyone out. There's so many good guys. But those guys really just come to mind right away. And then my mentor, John Lucas, who was a guy that just drove me. I worked out with John for like 10 summers straight. And, man, he just beat me down. He never made me feel like I was the best. He challenged me every day. And it didn't matter what it was. So I had some pretty good guys that got me to that next level as far as coaching and understanding how to teach my guys.
Yeah. You're talking about coaching right now and understanding and evolving each year. I know one thing that's occurred is the NIL is chipped in, obviously, and then, players are able to transfer schools right away. So how have you been able to adapt it? I've seen in the past couple of years your teams have been a little bit older. You had to, really cope with that. But has it still been fun trying to figure out ways to really, set the blueprint on what success is?
Man, I don't know about saying fun, Evan. I mean, honestly, it's challenging. No lie. This NIL thing, I, as a former player, obviously happy that the guys were getting, their name, image, and likeness paid, getting paid for that. But this thing is turned upside down, to be very honest, man. It's major now. It's not small. It is major. And you can lose your entire team. You can win a national championship and lose your entire team the next year because of NIL. Everybody knows they're going to get more money. So when you're faced with that, it's the hand that you're dealt. You just have to deal with it. The high school level, unless you're super elite, a lot of coaches really aren't going to high school games and tournaments anymore like they were, which is kind of sad. I hope we can get back to that grassroots area because that's kind of making it tough. With 2,000 young men in the portal, how do you go and get a freshman coming out of high school? When you had a freshman that already has practices and games under his belt that just got in the portal. So at some point, I think the NCAA is going to grab a hold of this again. But for right now, it's chaos. No lie, it's really chaos. But you got to go out there and you got to battle in the portal. It's free agency on the college level.
Do you ever see yourself involved? Because I work with the NIL at Ohio State. So when I see what players are asking, I'm like, damn, I got to come back with an Evan for that. Like, do you ever think shit, I need a penny for $500,000. You ever look at that sometimes? I'm like, son, listen to me. No.
Hey, honestly, the great Derek Coleman said this a long time ago. It's not how much you're worth, it's how much you can negotiate for. And it depends on what time and where your value is at the time. And some of these numbers for guys early are okay, but the later it gets and you got to have them, that might jump up 200,000 or 300,000. It's really, you start thinking, hey, man, you're not Evan Turner or Andre Iguodala, man. I don't know about that, bro. I mean, it's really amazing, man, because it almost becomes a business because now when I start paying you that much money, to me, it was already an expectation. Now it's even a higher expectation because now you're getting a ton of money. You're making more than my assistant coaches.
No, that's one of the questions I've been asking. I asked one question is how is it coaching the guy making that much money? If you got a player that's making more than your assistant coach, is it still the same in terms of coaching a 19, 20-year-old? Or, I'm asking a lot of coaches this question, or is it tougher to get a guy to be accountable? Because this guy's like, man, I got a check coming in. Like, what can you tell me? Is it a professional athlete, or is it still similar to coaching an amateur?
Is anybody like, shut your broke ass up? Like, anybody say that? Shut your broke ass up.
Hey, they might say it under their breath. Seriously, though. But no, honestly, it becomes about the character of the young man at that point because you can either get that much money and go, I'm going to go all out and show this team why I came here and give them all I have, an everyday guy. Or you can bail and just say, hey, man, I got the money that I wanted, that I earned from playing bad. So what? You can't take the money back, and I'm just going to ride off in the sunset. You guys just got to deal with it. You got both ways going right now.
You talk about grassroots and how important it is to really affect that part. And over the past, since you've been back in Memphis, you've done a lot for the community in regards to grassroots. You put a multi-sports complex out there where Beautiful. I believe since 2010, it's brought in $14 million a year in visitor spend and also has like 2,000-seat arena. And also, too, you come back a lot and you started the Summer League as well in your city. and then you coach for the University of Memphis. Talk about what this University of Memphis means to you and what it's like going back and really, going back and bringing more people out. You look at, what's my man, Colin Sexton. You look at Thad Youngs, those type of guys where they mention your name first and foremost.
Colin's from Memphis?
Man, he was arguing with this man. Penny was about to fight him like 10 years ago.
Yeah, right?
I'm going to whoop his butt.
But no, honestly, just to speak on the grassroots, man, it's just, to me, it makes me feel good to be back in my community, being able to do what I do best, and that's just give. I'm giving up my time and giving up my money. And then when you become the coach of the University of Memphis, pretty much the NCAA takes over and you kind of calm down in certain areas. But at the end of the day, my community knows wherever I'm able to do things, I'm going to do. And that makes me feel good. As far as, the other guy, like Thaddeus Young, another guy that's in the league that's done a phenomenal job, like you said about Colin Sexton. It's just a great feeling, man, just being from Memphis, being able to come back and be a part of something special. I wouldn't have had it any other way. My career ended abruptly, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and God placed me in this position, and I'm just thankful to be here, man, to be able to help in any way that I can for this community and for this school. It's just, to me, for this to come full circle, for me to be a player here and then now the coach, I couldn't ask for anything better.
You talk about community, and one thing that people forget, you always hear when it comes to, like, the franchise, it's like, what city should we put a new NBA team in, or what should we do this? Even last year, I know a guy from Memphis was on my tail because I was like, maybe move the Grizzlies to Nashville for whatever reason. But I understood why he was upset. But can you talk about the sports atmosphere in Memphis and appreciation that Grind City shows not only Grizzlies, but also the University of Memphis Tigers? Because it is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm biased, man, because born and raised here, I understand how passionate this city is, and we cannot lose the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies need to stay here in Memphis because we're going to support the Grizzlies, till the end. And it's the same thing for the University of Memphis. Obviously, the university was here before the Grizzlies came, so you have your faithful Memphis Tiger fans, but you also have a ton of faithful Grizzlies fans. So combined together, man, we both make this city great, and we have to keep the Grizzlies here for sure.
Yeah, and Memphis as a city, I think, is the largest percentage of population of African Americans out of all NBA cities.
Oh shit! All right, we'll keep them there then.
So we can't leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and they're at the game.
No, we can't leave.
No, and how they be doing the chingies after the game? It's like so hospitable. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like a 1,000 wings after the game. You know what I mean?
Hey man, the one thing about the city, man, they treat you like royalty here. We know how to treat our teams here. They do a great job.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Well, let's cross over into basketball. Talk about some of your past playing days of what our favorite things going on right now. You see the NBA playoffs. Who do you like so far? And is there anybody that you see in today's game that's like a young Penny?
As far as the playoffs, obviously I'm enjoying the Denver-Minnesota series just like everyone else, and then the Knicks-Pacers series. Both of those series, man, have been phenomenal because, it's a game of adjustments. When, Dre's won multiple championships, you understand that Denver came back and made some major adjustments.
Yes, they did.
That really shocked Minnesota and showed them why they're the defending champs. Now let's see what Minnesota does. With the Knicks, it's been in question that the guys are playing too many minutes. It is what it is this time of year, right, Dre? It is what it is. It's just, you have injuries. And when you have injuries, you got to pile on the minutes, man. But you got to give credit to Indiana for making the adjustments as well. But for me, the entire playoffs to me has been great. And as far as someone looking like me, I can just say the guys that I like, man. Obviously, it's the obvious, man. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jason Tatum, Ant-Man. Those guys are really, Jalen Brunson. I remember having to play against him when I coached AAU. I put 3 guys on him that game because he was that good. And I think he still scored 20. So just to be a fan, I don't know if I can just say one guy reminds me of myself, but Tyrese Halliburton he's doing a pretty good damn job in Indiana.
That's true. I was thinking about something. Right now, you see the Timberwolves. When they went up 2-0, I was kind of thinking like, man, if they make it to the finals, it would somewhat be equivalent to when the Magic had made it prematurely, I guess, quote unquote, back in '94. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And when it comes up to that, what do you remember, or if you were in and you were able to, what advice would you give him in order to prep for that and really take that next step? Because in order to jump into your first finals is a big thing, but, what do you really need to prepare for, and what do you wish you could have taken back and done differently that first time around?
Yeah, I would say to Ant, it's not promised for you to get back to the finals or to get to the finals if there were the case that they got past Denver, that you need to take this very seriously because it's not promised to get back. You're not promised to get back at all. I think that if you look at it, he's still very young, and it looks like, oh man, they're going to keep getting back there. You're definitely not promised to get back there. So take this ride just like it is and play your butt off. What I would change back, if I could do it all over again, was be more serious about the moment, because I just felt like we were going to get back there regardless because we had Shaq.
That's real. And when we go back to talking about Shaq and we're figuring out what Shaq, is there anything you wish you could have redone during that time? Because when you talk about like being you look at Kobe and Shaq, do you ever sit there and be like, shit, those are my 5 championships or 4 championships, or however many they won?
I don't think Shaq was ready.
You don't think Shaq was ready?
At that time, Shaq was so young, but he was going to be the man. Ultimately, he became the man. And, our team was just so young. And then watching him and Kobe together, for sure, there was some jealousy there because I felt like that should have been me and Shaq. And it just didn't happen, man. But I promise you, if we would have stayed together, it would have been championships won.
Point forward.
Looking back on it, do you think you missed out on, your time with Shaq? Like y'all could have won a championship, what Evan was saying. And my point was, I feel like Shaq wasn't ready.
I don't know about not being ready. I don't think his game of maturity was there. Like, and I like the new Shaq because he expressed how the last few years of his career he wasn't himself, and it kind of hurt. Like, it hurt him like emotionally in terms of like, I'm not who I was. And we know Shaq Diesel. He had 50 million names. Yeah. Shaq Diesel, Aristotle, like he was always this big brand. Yeah. And I felt like we have to be real with ourselves in terms of like that plays a role in a guy's focus or his mentality into the game. And so, Shaq and you don't have to speak on this. I can speak on it, just from what I've seen. Shaq has had issues in terms of like who's the alpha male. And like, him and Kobe's thing, him and Penny, they spoke about that in the 30 for 30 documentary.
With the shoes?
Yeah, with the shoes. That was crazy.
That. I never had a problem at all because I knew that Diesel was the man. I knew that to keep him happy was going to help us win. So that's how I've always been anyway. So I know Kobe was a stronger mental guy as far as like wanted to take all the shots. And, with Shaq, they were going to bump heads a little bit for sure. And they did.
Yeah. And that brought me into, we were talking about, like the playoffs of now and who reminds you of you, different guys of that nature, who's going to make a run at the title. And I'm seeing a lot of guys shoot a lot of three-pointers. Yeah. And we're getting late in games and they're losing leads. We just saw Boston. They ended up winning the game, but they lost the lead to, Donovan Mitchell-less Cleveland Cavaliers. Yep. And then we saw OKC come back from like being down big in the first half, winning that game 4 against Dallas. And Shea was getting to his spots, mid-range. And you spoke about it earlier, getting to the block, your mismatch. And really understanding, like, we've lost what the mismatch is in the game. Like, it's like Kevin Durant's the only mismatch anymore, just because he's 7 feet tall. But there is a mismatch on the block, and I don't know why we don't get to it. And you space the floor if a double team comes. MJ did this all day long. And so when you were talking about Coach Hill letting you go to the block and posting up smaller guards, how long did it take you to get comfortable with it? But was it something you always had, you just didn't utilize it as much? And then how can a guy like Jason Tatum put it in his repertoire? Like, what would you show him? Yeah, I think I was kind of familiar, obviously, with it because being a bigger guard, I posted up before. It was just almost every possession with the Orlando Magic. We just made it a part of our offense, and I was very comfortable right there. And if you didn't come and double team, I felt like I was going to get a higher percentage shot. And that kind of kept the floor balanced as well, instead of what's going on nowadays. Like you said, so many bad threes. It's okay to take the threes, but it's so many bad threes. And what I would say to Jason, I would get him right on the block and just let him play out a triple threat or play post. And then if you come and double team, he's going to make the right play. If you guard him one-on-one, he's going to score at a high percentage. So I get it, what today's game is with analytics, but you got to get that mismatch on the post going again. This is why I like Anthony Edwards. He taking boys to the block and he's putting his body on them, and them boys are flying off. Like every matchup, no matter who it is a mismatch. And MJ used to say it. If it was a big on me, I use my quickness and get by him. If it was a small guy, I'm taking you to the block. Pick your poison. I saw him the 1996 game 4. They swept y'all, and you were guarding him on the block a few times, and he was still able to shoot over you. He gave you a little shimmy, and it just, I want people to really understand how good MJ was, because you've seen him at his highest heights. What was it about him and that post work that just made it unstoppable, essentially?
Well, he was a master of his craft. He was a guy that, he worked on that same shot, those same moves, tirelessly in the unseen hours. And then when he got into the game, everything was effortless, man. He was ready for his moment before he even got to the moment. And that's what made him great, along with being relentless, being just a pit bull at all times. And it's almost like he played angry. He played with that chip, because if you even thought that you were better than him, then that just, made him go to another level. And we battled the whole time that I was in the NBA while he was in the NBA as well. But that's what made him great, man. Seriously, that's what made him the best.
And I don't want to let it go unspoken, but they couldn't guard you either. Like, I got the CD. I still got DVDs.
Let's get that on record.
I got DVDs. 94, 95, 96, and it was two guys the Bulls struggled with, like they couldn't do nothing with. And it was you and Grant Hill. Because Grant had a hezzy cross, and they never seen a crossover before from guys 6'8". Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that needs to be spoken as well, that, But then how was that transition for you? We talk about, it's a lot of talk about mental health, right? And we dealt with it a lot of different. But there is something with, like my best friend right here, he always says some crazy stuff, and I had to remind him, no, you one of them ones.
No question.
But in terms of you get in the wrong situation, and there's a lot of guys in the league who are they're NBA guys, but they never get in the right situation to even be shown or to even show what they can do. How was it for you when, that knee injury, microfracture was new back then, for you to really have confidence in yourself every single day, the ups and downs of it? Some days you feel like yourself, some days you don't feel like yourself. And I went through it in terms of my role. One day I might get 2 shots, one day I might get 8. Very seldom do I get 10.
Yeah, the only thing that don't change is what you've done in the past and your popularity. You're always going to be Andre Iguodala. You're always going to be Penny Hardaway. My name ain't as big, but nobody knew. They at least knew Evan Turner if they showed up to a game. And they say, what the fuck is he doing? You know what I mean? So how was that?
Yeah, for me, when I had the microfracture, I knew it was instantly the worst decision that I had made in my life, because I could just tell I was different. Before that, I could maneuver and manufacture through things, but it was so much pain. It was taking me so long after a game to get out of the car. You just get up out of the car and go in the house. Bro, I had to open the door, swing my legs out, use the car door to get up, and I had just played 38, 39 minutes in the game. I knew then that something wasn't right, and I was never the same after the microfracture surgery. And I was one of the first guys to have microfracture surgery. So that just destroyed me. It wasn't even and it felt like my left leg got weaker. My quad and my VMO on the strength work, it could never get strong enough. It just seemed like my left quad just stayed it was very weak and atrophied the entire time and never got back as strong as the right. And I just knew I wasn't the same. Before then, having minor little meniscus tears and getting those repaired, I felt the same way. I felt like I had a little bounce in the edge. But after the microfracture surgery, man, I knew at that point I was just trying to hold on to something that wasn't there, man. And mentally, it did mess with me. But at the same time, man, I felt like I was blessed. And it was hard, but it'll definitely get you mentally, man, if you're not ready for it. And I've watched a lot of brothers just go through that, and I can definitely sympathize.
Well, then, during those trials and tribulations, is that where you started thinking about your career and what was going to happen next, and being like, maybe I want to be a coach? Or, what's next after the game of basketball? At what point did you know where you're like, let me start focusing on, being Penny Hardaway to coach? Or when did you know you wanted to coach?
Well, here's the thing with me. I actually didn't really officially retire. I just left the game. It was so demoralizing that I just pretty much left the game and just came back home to Memphis to try to figure it out. I didn't have a plan in my head. I knew whatever I was going to do, I was going to be successful at it, though. I was going to attack it just like I did with basketball and with sports. But I didn't know what I wanted to do until I really got home. And then when I got home, if you've seen the story on ESPN, E60 or 30 for 30, I came home, my friend had colon cancer, and he asked me to help him coach our middle school. And that's basically how that whole thing got birthed into me being a coach. But I never once thought while I was in the NBA, hey, man, I'm going to go back home and coach. Not one time.
And now you got a family, you got your son playing college basketball. He's going to be near me in the Bay.
Yep.
How is it? Because now we're seeing more and more NBA players. Like, this generation seems like it's figured out how to get your kids to hoop and get to the league. Like, we're seeing more NBA kids get to the league.
Yeah.
And so what's been your approach there with, it's that fine line. Don't push them too much, but also you want them to be a smart player. You know what they're going to need, the tools, but also at the same time, we aren't the smartest basketball players in the world according to our kids. So it's really hard to get them to listen. Like, it's like 8 people got to tell your kid what you already told them for the last 15 years for them to be like, oh, you were right. And so what's been your approach with getting your kids into the game?
I think the biggest thing is just to be dad and allow other guys to help, like to train him and not be overbearing and allow him to grow. And any questions that he has or any areas that he needs me to help him in, I'll help. I don't try to overdo it. I don't try to overshadow him or make him feel like, hey, man, if you don't ask me, then you're not going to succeed. He's kind of like making his own pathway, and he's definitely, to me, is a pro. I see everything in him that he needs. He just has to continue to get the minutes, continue to get the work, and then I feel like, he'll be blessed enough to be able to have that opportunity.
What's that type of conversation like when he's like, yo, Pops, I think I'm going to transfer out and head to St. Mary's? It takes one thing to be able to recognize that, but to be able to remove yourself and have that type of support system, what's that mindset like? Is it just one thing of like caring for the best situation for all your players? Or are you like, yo, I got a 24-year-old flamethrower that might be shooting 45%. He might be giving me a contract extension, son. Like, you know what I mean? What's that conversation like?
No, I think
that's a real thing to go through.
Right. I think in today's world, when Ashton went back to L.A., he and Bronny are really close friends. Bronny got in the portal and decided to put his name in the NBA draft. And right after that, Ashton spoke about wanting to do that because I don't think he was ever comfortable here because we kind of forced it. And I felt kind of guilty for that because it's probably not where he really wanted to come. I think he wanted to make me proud to come here. But I think St. Mary's is a wonderful choice for him because that's more his style, his flow, and what he wants to do, even though I wanted him around me every day to just, to pour into him. But in today's world, I mean, there's other coaches' sons around the country that I've seen that have transferred and gone other places, and you can't do anything but champion that and just applaud it and say, hey, I'm going to support you in whatever you do, and I'll be there whenever you need me. But he's trying to create his own path, and I definitely support that. But it is weird, to have your son transfer, but at the end of the day, that in today's world, nothing is weird anymore. It's just how it is, and you just let them be free and not want to hold them back or hold them down from their dreams.
Yeah, because I just learned the fastest way to get my son to respond is to direct message him on IG. Which is, I'm like, I text you 9 times.
Right.
So it's a different world. But in terms of, where you see yourself in the next, 5 to 10 years, I think, what's the coach's name down in Memphis? Jaeger? Or Taylor.
Yeah.
I love Coach Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And, he might be in a situation where a big market like, LA is always open, it seems like, or, Tibbs is getting older. It's certain.
He ain't retiring.
Tibbs ain't
retiring.
But Taylor might be in a position where he might get, lured away. So do you ever see yourself, coaching at the NBA level?
It's actually a dream of mine to coach on the NBA level. I know I'll have to pay my dues and come in at whatever level, which is fine because I think I'll love developing because that level of young men on the NBA level, they're still raw. They don't know enough. So the expertise and the mental will always need to be there. And I think I can help in so many different ways with development and talking to the younger generation about what's going on because I started in middle school, AAU, high school, so I can identify with these young men more so than an average coach that's just only done NBA. So I think I could build relationships better. So for me, I think my goal, I know my goal is to coach in the league one day. I don't know when. It could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It could be earlier than that, but I definitely want to do it.
And I want to say something, too, because you're definitely setting a tone. There's always some stereotype or weird agenda where it's like, no, you guys play, but you don't understand you can't coach. Yep. So now you're getting to the point now, do you ever feel like you're really trailblazing ways to be like, yo, we play, we coach. It's like we should be taken more serious, more so than just a talent that we were 15 years ago. You know, nowadays you might hear certain guys that play, carry the franchise, and they might be lucky if they get an assistant coaching job or, you know what I mean, on the bench.
Yep.
I think sometimes one thing that gets lost in the sauce is the communication of players recognizing players and taking it from there.
Yeah, I definitely take this to heart because, I mean, what is really coaching? Is it X's and O's? Is it development? Is it relationships? Is it managing time? Is it build? You know,
it's the Jimmys and Joes.
You know, I think we talk about it. Like I can X and O with anybody. I can develop. I can teach. I can build relationships. I can do it all. So I think that's who we are. We didn't play at the highest level or get to the highest level by being mediocre in anything that we didn't do. I mean, everything we did was about being excellent. So I think that Stackhouse, phenomenal coach. Damon Stoudemire, phenomenal coach. Juwan Howard, phenomenal coach. All these former NBA guys that came to this level are great coaches, man. So I know that we can do it, and I'm trying to be the leader of that and keep pushing forward for us. I definitely think about it daily.
Point forward.
Well, Penny, we just really, truly appreciate, you stopping by, giving us some of your time. I know it's busy times right now. It's AAU tournaments. The portal's going crazy. But just to give you your flowers and thank you for, the inspiration that you've been to us. I love seeing you when you talk, even other podcasts and all of them. I think we just hold you in very high regard and what you did for our childhood and really push us to, think outside the box and have a great imagination. And I'm sure a lot of our fans are huge fans of yours as well. So best of luck to you in this current year, your future endeavors, to you, the family. And once again, just thank you. Thank you for just what you've meant to us and just thank you for pulling up. So we appreciate you and take care.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys as well, man. Keep being leaders.
Point forward.
Thank you all for joining and listening or watching another episode of Point Forward. Appreciate the love, the support. Until next time.